Diversity is not a new topic in our discussions or conversations. For quite some time we have been conscious of this concept, and we have also begun to see that diversity in philanthropy and fundraising are significant topics. However, it seems like in the last couple of years we've received new emphasis on this topic. And the fact that diversity also implies culture is very significant for us to consider, because culture shapes how we behave, what we practice, what we do. Culture is to a group as personality is to a person. So when we consider diversity and culture as major topics in today's discussions of philanthropy and fundraising, it's relevant for us to understand how various population groups practice identity-based philanthropy. Today we want to take a quick look at what does it mean to embrace diversity, and how does culture lay a groundwork for our practice in philanthropy, which is a matter of inclusivity, not a matter of exclusivity. In this session, we'll take a quick look at diversity and also how can we become more proficient in understanding and working with other cultures. In future sessions and articles, we will get more specific how various population groups practice philanthropy. For now, let's take a quick look at a meaning of diversity and then move on to culture. First, I think it might be good for us to think about how we define diversity and how that definition perhaps has changed over the last couple of decades. It definitely means that we have an acceptance of differences, and in particular I like the word inclusiveness. Today, we see that the word diversity has taken on expanded meanings, and we see even in communities across our nation, large cities as well as small communities, that we have increasing changes in our population mix. And diversity also continues to mean not just race, ethnicity, and such designations, but also some of the ways that we look at things, some of the ways that we congregate for like causes. And no longer is it just a matter of when we create a board we need to have X number of females on it or minority groups. Now we see a much rangier definition for diversity. Culture, of course, is a major factor in what creates a diversity that we can both enjoy but which sometimes confounds us. It is a way of life, a people's way of life. It takes place over time, and of course culture does influence how we behave, and there are certain behaviors that are acceptable in certain situations, again depending on the culture in which we are embedded or which we are accustomed to. It is, as I mentioned earlier, to a group what personality is to an individual, and culture therefore can be exhibited in many ways, including our social norms, music, art, our traditions, even our religion. In many ways, culture is visible, like dress, food, some of the customs, some of the music. And then there are those aspects of culture that are intangible, which are beliefs and values. And culture in general can also be seen as those shared values among a certain group of people. And these are the shared values that we need to begin to pay attention to as we put culture together with philanthropic practice. Because culture and subculture definitely relates to how people will practice philanthropy. What are their motivations? What are their traditions? In the United States, much of our philanthropy has originated with the white male from our early days as a country. And this is how our philanthropic practices have evolved. However, fortunately, in the last couple of decades, increasingly we have realized that while this has worked very well, we are missing a lot. And since times have changed and we find population groups changing, therefore also a great many opportunities for how philanthropy is practiced and how we may attract such philanthropy for our organizations. Regrettably, we still have some biases that we need to deal with. Some cultures are invisible because we have stereotypes about them, such as certain population groups aren't generous. When we do research, we find out they really are. Sometimes we isolate cultures. Sometimes the fact that there is linguistic bias, with of course English being predominant, can also be a matter of exclusivity rather than inclusivity, particularly when it comes to fundraising. So we need to develop a competence in our behaviors as they relate to culture. This slide and the next couple of slides show a progression that begins with ethnocentricity. And as we walk our way through those particular steps, such as learning about other cultures, increasing our own awareness, accepting differences, and in particular, being sensitive to those differences, we build toward a competency, and finally the top level of professional behavior is a proficiency. Being able to share what is valuable about a certain culture, definitely not our own, but others, and sharing this information with others. Another model is dividing the cultural progression into two stages. The first one being the ethnocentric, which is certainly not advisable as we are reaching out to the various population groups which may be involved in our organizations and may become donors for us. More positive are the ethno-relative stages, the acceptance, adaptation, and finally the integration of those cultural practices as we develop our fundraising programs in order to tap into philanthropic practices that we may not be accustomed to. So in conclusion for this section, just a little bit of a summary. Knowledge about cultures, which would include facts as well as characteristics. Awareness of yourself, as Alexander Pope so well put it many years ago, know thyself. And then the specific skills and behaviors, everywhere from use of language to gestures to way we present our case to our funders, they all add up to cultural intelligence, which is a level that we as professional and proficient fundraisers should desire to reach. So accepting diversity as it is shaped by culture and leading up to a diverse donor pool is truly the best practice for a fundraiser. In future sessions, as well as written pieces and on our website, we will be little by little increasing your knowledge in how culture affects philanthropy and how various identity-based groups practice this philanthropy. Please feel free to contact us at PSI if we can help you along these lines in any way. Thank you.